Mr. John Chang here with us for lunch today. I would like to ask our former president of the Taiwanese American Chamber of Commerce of North America, Mr. Alan Tian, to come up and do a brief introduction of our distinguished guest.
Um, John Chang was elected on November 4th, 2014 as California, the third state treasurer. As a state banker, he oversees trillions of dollars in transactions every year. One of his top priorities is to conduct the state business in the most transparent manner possible. John sells California bonds, invests the state's money, and manages its cash. In addition, he manages financial authorities that help provide good paying jobs, better school, improved transportation, quality health care, more affordable housing, and a clean environment. Prior to elected as treasurer, John served from 2007 to 2014 as state controller, during which time he took steps during the Great Recession to preserve cash, to make obligation to education and bondholders, worked to ensure the fiscal solvency of states' pension plans, and was a leader in pension and corporate governance reform. Ensured that 3.1 billion in unclaimed property was returned to the rightful owners. John was first elected to the Board of Equalization in 1998, where he served 2 terms, including 2 years as chair. He began his career as a tax law specialist with the Internal Revenue Service and previously served as an attorney in the State Controller's Office. The son of immigrant parents, John graduated with honors from the University of South Florida with a degree in finance. He received his law degree from the Georgetown University Law Center. Let's welcome John.
Everybody, let's please give a round of applause to our state treasurer, Mr. John Chang, and please minimize the noise level in this room currently. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Alan, for the kind words of introduction. I am absolutely delighted to join all of you as we gather to discuss Taiwan trade with the state of California and the United States of America. To give you a context, as Alan alluded to, I am the state treasurer. I am California's banker. And to understand 2016 today, the relationship in California, we are today in Los Angeles, California. If you look at what's transpired over the past few years, just at the end of last decade, California and America was in a severe recession. Today, California has one of the strongest economic rebounds on the planet Earth. But to understand what's transpiring, if you look at the Milken study, what they just disseminated, there is tremendous growth throughout the state, but certain pockets are performing far better than other areas. So the highest economic performance for a region in California and the United States today is the San Jose, Santa Clara, Menlo Park region, which is the #1 highest performing economic region in the United States of America. Nearby is San Francisco, which is performing #2, and because of the extraordinary growth in technology, it is pulling the surrounding areas up very well. So San Luis Obispo is #10, Oakland is #39, Santa Rosa, Marin County are all doing very well. Today in Los Angeles, if you look at this region, the Long Beach, Los Angeles, Glendale region, we fell from 35th to 77th. In large part, that drop is accounted for because of what's happening in the Asia region with the financial conditions, the lack of trade. And so that's why this gathering is very important for the Southern California region going forward. It's important that we build the relationships, we build the connections, we get a better sense of the capital flows, and the commerce that needs to take place for when Asia pulls up, that Southern California can benefit. The Los Angeles and Long Beach ports are the #1 gateway to Taiwan through the United States. For the Los Angeles Customs, Taiwan is #4, and the Southern California ports are the #1 gateway into the United States from Taiwan. This room is incredibly diverse, and I just wanted to share some of the opportunities that I hope all of you will think about as you progress with your commerce in the state of California. So as Alan alluded to, and Alan's from the banking and financial industry, there are a plethora of financial institutions here in Southern California that have very deep, long-lasting, and powerful impacts with Taiwan. I am the state's banker, and so I handle trillions of dollars of transactions each year for the state of California. And what I've tried to do is try to enhance the power of local communities and financial institutions in local communities throughout California. So I have pulled $1 billion out of banks on Wall Street and moved that $1 billion into local banks in the state of California. If you just go down the street, USC gets help for their financing to build their world-class capital structures, whether it's research in stem cells, whether it's research in engineering, whether it's Stanford, whether it's Claremont, whether it's every single building on Pepperdine, with partnerships with local banks. So we try to provide that capital. In addition, I finance businesses as small as taco trucks or Chinese restaurants, all the way up to leading edge aerospace companies and electrical vehicle companies such as Tesla. And so it's that type of energy, it's that type of commerce that's very important. And then the last point, the America today that we all live in is very different than the America that my parents, when they left Taipei and Tainan, looked like in the 1950s. In the 1960s, America was 96% white and African American. The white included Latinos. If you look at the beginning of this decade, actually 1960s, less than 0.5% of America were Asians. Today, if you look at America today, that 22% drop in Caucasians has been made up by 17% Latinos and 5%, and I know that's 23%, we picked up percent elsewhere, Asians. And if you look at California today, it is 14.9% Asian. If you look out to 2060, California will be what America will be in 2060. We'll be looking at Asians about 15%. So this gathering, the ability to build the relationships and connections with Americans of all backgrounds, faiths, connections throughout our global economy is absolutely critical. So I look forward to a great day. I know you're going to have terrific speakers. You've had terrific speakers. I know after this you're going to have Jackson and Frank talk about it. It's going to be a great father-son partnership. But I think it's really important that at the end of the day we build the relationships so that you are all successful. So congratulations, and I wish you a great conference.
Thank you very much, John. For those of you who did not make it out here early in the morning, this morning we actually started around 8 o'clock. We had very distinguished guests that were present at that time. And I also like to take this time to introduce our U.S. Congressman, Mr. Ed Royce, who was with us earlier this morning. I'd like to have him come up and say a couple more words.
Thank you, Paul. I'll just share with you that tomorrow I'll be leading a delegation to Taiwan. This will be the 4th trip that I've led as chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee to strengthen the relationship between Taiwan and the United States. But as a member of the Taiwan caucus for 20 years now, I've been taking trips to Taiwan. What I will share with you is this. We have a historic opportunity now to deepen and strengthen the tie between the United States and Taiwan. And part of that is going to be to build on the trading relationship and investments. You all know businesses in Taiwan that are investing here in the United States. We've seen an increasing number of California firms that also are going to Taiwan. So this synergy is creating new opportunities here. We have an opportunity to get a bilateral investment agreement done with Taiwan. It's important because if we get that done, we can then get Taiwan into the TPP. If we do a Trans-Pacific Partnership, we want to make certain Taiwan has a seat at the table to represent its interests, because if it can expand its exports all over Southeast Asia and the entire Pacific Rim, this will diversify the economy, strengthen the economy. This is something that's very important to President Tsai. I'm going to be meeting with her on this. We're going to be meeting with both political parties in Taiwan on this subject and other security concerns and humanitarian concerns, which we'll share. But I thank you for inviting me to the lunch here today. Thank you for your engagement, and I congratulate you all for this conference. So many good ideas this morning have come out of this conference. Thanks for your participation.
Thank you, Congressman. Also like to introduce a couple of special guests at the front table here. With us from the Taiwan government officials here in Los Angeles. Please say hello to our Director of the Culture Center of Taipei Economic and Cultural Affairs Office, Mr. Tony Ong. Our Deputy Director General of Taipei Economic and Cultural Affairs Office, also the Chief of the Economic Division, Mr. Jaime Chen. And also a very long-term member of our Taiwanese American Chamber of Los Angeles, who just recently served out his term as a legislator in Taiwan, Mr. Mark Chan. And also a former legislator in Taiwan representing the foreign compatriots of Taiwan, Mr. John Wang.
Thank you. As you may not know, today's luncheon is sponsored by Mr. Jackson Yang. We would like to express our deep gratitude for his generosity. And you will hear from him and his amazing story later. At this time, let me invite our first luncheon speaker, keynote speaker, Mr. Jason Hsu, to the stage. Mr. Hsu is the founder and the chairman of the Brilliant Global Advisor, a leading provider of smart beta research and strategies in Asia. With an estimate of $4 billion in assets, Mr. Hsu was named 20 Rising Star of hedge fund by the institutional investor. Let's welcome Mr. Jason Hsu.
Thank you. Let me wait for the PowerPoint to be loaded up. But first of all, I think I would be remiss not to acknowledge that I am from Taiwan, and specifically, 我是彰化人. So if there's anyone from 彰化, raise your hand. Okay, so before I get started, I was in the last panel listening to one of our speakers, Mr. Eric Rice, and he says it's really, really important if you want people to pay attention to you, to tell them very quickly who you are, what you do, and why it matters. So I'm gonna have to brag a little bit about myself, and before that, to get your attention, I'm gonna put on a hat. Notice I didn't come on stage with a hat on already, because you might think I don't have hair. So it's important for me to show up with hair first and then put on a hat. So what do I do? I guess it's fashionable these days to say you're a serial entrepreneur. So I have launched 2 companies, both in the investment space. The first one is Research Affiliates, which runs about $150 billion in assets and has a valuation about $500 million. And then just launched a new company in Asia doing Asian equities, and it's about $4 billion in assets right now and worth about $80 million. So hopefully that gets some attention so that you would actually look at me and listen to what I'm saying. But more interestingly, I am an active angel in the LA area, something that I started to do in the last 2 years. And so I am interested in what many of our young people here have to offer and have to say. And what I'd like to share in return is what an angel looks for when we're meeting with an entrepreneurial team. And generally, my firm writes checks that are on the order of, $100,000 to $3 million for a good angel product. Okay. All right. So for you to understand how to interact with an angel or VC, what's really, really useful to keep in mind is the inherent information asymmetry between you, the entrepreneur, and me, the person providing the capital. Now, if you're any good at all, it has to be the case that you, the entrepreneur, knows a lot more about the technology and the market than me, the angel. Right? Like if you didn't know more than I did, that would be a very sad outcome, and there should be no conversation from that point on. So when I'm assessing you, what I look for isn't the technology, because that's not where I'm going to have an expertise over you. What's important is my information asymmetry versus you is that I have a deeper understanding of business, of capital raising, of teams in general. Okay, so if you understand that information asymmetry, then it's easy for you to structure how you should present to a VC, to an angel. And I would say the biggest mistake for a lot of people is that you focus way too much. You focus way too much in trying to educate me on the technology. Now, clearly, I'll have someone on my team, or I'll make sure you have access to another VC who knows the technology well. But it would be a mistake for you to try to educate me to make me an expert about that technology before I write you a check, because that's just going to be wasted time and you're never going to get there. Frankly, I wouldn't be able to tell between your team of cancer researcher versus his team of cancer researcher. And there's no amount of education you could do to change my mind on that. So what do I actually look for? Given that my edge over an entrepreneur is really on the business side, how I assess a team is really based on the business dimensions that we think are going to be critical for entrepreneurial success. And it comes down to the following 5. A track record, the ability to attract and build a team, your business savviness, your learning agility, and your ability to persevere. I'll quickly talk about what each one of these mean to me. Now, when I talk about track record, of course, ideally, if you have done this before, if you have launched a company, even if you fail, that's all right. If you launch a company and you learn something, if you succeeded, that's even better. That would be phenomenal. But generally, you're not going to be that lucky. And then as we're looking at deals, there are only a few teams out there that's had 1 or 2 successful exits. And those, by and large, are going to be expensive deals to get into. So we're going to have to look at teams that have related experience. It means you are an industry insider. You've worked a long time in that industry. You know the ecosystem. You know your client. You know how all the players interact in that system. You know the client's pain point. And you have experience to take a vision and operationalize it. All right, so if you don't have that, you're going to be swimming upstream and running against a very strong headwind in terms of convincing an angel or VC to put some money into you. Now, the next piece is the ability to build team. Right? I mean, this is probably overstated, but it cannot be overemphasized. The question that we want to know is, what is it about you that attracts great people? Would great people come work for you for cheap? And again, these great industry insiders willing to come work for you for cheap tells me something about you that I otherwise myself cannot ascertain. And the next piece is, it's important for us to know that you as an entrepreneur have a deep sense of self-awareness. Do you know your own shortcomings where you lack the capability, and then you build a team around where you have shortcomings? Many entrepreneurs have a lot of ego, and it's difficult for them to see their own shortcomings where they're not good enough. And as a result, they tend not to build the kind of team that reminds them of themselves of what they're not good at. And so if you can't overcome that hubris, you're not going to succeed. And finally, when we look at your team, I know you're cash strapped, I know you're a startup, but that doesn't justify me seeing a team of make-dos, where a lot of people start a startup and they have a college roommate, maybe they have their brother. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking for capable people who are exceptional in the field who want to join you, not make-dos who are here because you can't afford any better. Business savviness. What do I mean by that? There are a lot of scientists and technology people out there, and they'll get very excited talking about how it is that they, create and invent that technology. And that is important. I'm not saying that that is not important. But to succeed, the person driving the vision, driving the enterprise, has to be a business person. Can you ask that big picture business question? Because if you can't ask that, you're going to be stuck in minutiae, engineering things that are interesting to you, but not interesting to your target client. I think one of the speakers said, if you're building product for yourself rather than your client, then it's a hobby, not an enterprise. And that's really important as a business person to understand. And then finally, most people say, oh, it's about vision and everything's just detail. I would say to succeed, you need the exact opposite. Because what I believe is good ideas are a dime a dozen. There are lots of smart people with lots of good ideas. They don't become successful entrepreneurs because they lack the experience and the attention to detail to visualize from the start what are the steps that needs to be operationalized. They lack the imagination to see the execution details. And as a result, they have big ideas that goes nowhere. And so again, when I look at an entrepreneur, interesting big vision, that's all good, but I want you to communicate that you can visualize how the operational details are going to occur. Learning agility. Most of you will probably spend way too much time, project way too much confidence in your pitch about how you got it all figured out, how what you have determined is exactly the right thing to do. And trust me, for anyone who's put money into any venture, we know after 6 months, you're going to change your idea. You're going to discover that that was a very, very stupid plan. So what's more important to me is not the glossy pitch today, because I know that's not going to work. And that's okay. What's important to me is, are you able to learn quickly? Can you be very, very clear about what assumptions have you made in your business plan? What assumptions have you made about your target audience? Do you have a plan to test that, vet that, verify that, and then learn from it and pivot? And that's what I mean by learning agility. This ability to know very clear, crystal clear, what assumptions you have made. How is that cash flow projection? How is that market projection predicated on a set of assumptions? And then the ability to really test it without bias, without passion, and reject it and move on. And that's what I mean by learning agility, because your probability of succeeding with your first plan is 0. And it's about pivot number 2, pivot number 3. And those who can learn quickly and are willing to say, I was wrong, those are the ones who will survive. And then finally, because your first idea is going to fail and you will have to pivot, I need to know that you could get knocked down over and over again and get right back up and be better each and every time. And if you don't have that within you, it would be just throwing money into the water, investing in someone who can't get back up, because you will fail. It is very, very hard. So I know my time is up, so I want to quickly summarize my takeaway. Entrepreneurs, understand that when you're talking to a VC or an angel, the information asymmetry is that you know more about the business and the technology, and I know more about running a business and building a team. I can't assess your technology, but I can assess you and your team. Focus on that, because if you get me to believe in you, you get me to believe in your team, I will believe in your technology. Thank you.
Thank you again, Mr. Jason Su. Did you say you were from Zhanghua? Oh, we have many, I know many friends who are from Zhanghua. They actually have what they call a Tongxianghui. I'm going to try to hook you up with them. Ladies and gentlemen, next is the moment that many of us have been waiting for, to see a successful father and son team on the stage to share their inspiring and amazing story and experience. Mr. Jackson Yang is the chairman of First General Bank, as well as a very successful trading company, Seville Classics. He is also a former president of the World Taiwanese Chamber of Commerce, which is a global organization spanning 6 continents. His son, Frank, is the founder and CEO of Simple Human, which is a great branded company with the vision of building and designing tools for efficient living. Please join me to welcome Mr. Jackson and Frank Yang to the stage. They will be interviewed by Victoria Lai on the topic of passing the torch of leadership into the next generation. Where's Victoria? Vicky? I'd like to ask everyone to try to keep the noise level to a minimum. Thank you.
谢谢各位来宾。今天我们非常荣幸的请到我们台美商会会长、前会长杨信先生及他的儿子 Frank Yang 来到我们的现场。那许多的观众朋友已经很熟悉杨董事长了。杨董事长经营了闻名世界的国际企业 Seville Classics， 在欧美、亚洲已经享誉盛名35年以上，超过80%的美国家庭都有使用杨董事长的产品。杨董事长也将版图扩大到了银行业，10年前创立了大通银行 First General Bank， 并于2011年合并了 American Premier Bank and Golden Security Bank。所以杨董事长，我们都知道您生长在 台湾彰化的乡下地区，当时物资十分缺乏的年代，您是如何走出自己创业的第一步，决定了自己的方向？
大家午安。My English is good enough to communication with my employee to run my business. So today I'm going to be half and half, half English, half Chinese. 这个台湾早期啊，在我们那个民国33年，也就是1944年的时候，那个时候都是农业社会啊。那我当时是10几岁，我知道将来要成功的话，靠耕农啊是不可能的，因为当时我的父亲从我的祖父这样财产一分下来，我们的农田啊一直分割，一直分割啊。假定说我今天没有来美国的话，我现在有5个小孩，9个孙子啊，再分下来这个农地啊，可能只是一小块而已啦，所以不可能这个维持生活。因此当时这个台湾的这个政府呢就鼓励要外销了。那台湾是一个海岛国家，没有外销就不可能的啦。所以我当时就开始立志说一定要想办法来从事这个出口外销的生意的。
好的，听说您是39岁的时候举家移民来到美国，成立了 Savio Classics， 是不是可以跟我们分享一下 Savio Classic 的经营秘诀与成功的之道？
对在座的年轻人来说，你们都很幸运的，都在美国读书。那么不但这个美国的文化背景、那个语言能力都很强，所以说呢，对我来说，我当时39岁带了小孩子举家移民来美国啊。我当时呢就在思考要怎么样在这块土地生存下来。那么我做了2个动作。第一个动作，我利用周末花了2年的时间，我到这个苏阿面 market 去摆苏阿面。那么同时呢，因为我家庭大，人口多，我就到当时的 Price Club， 早期就 Costco Wholesale Club 的前身 Price Club 去买东西。那发现这个 Price Club 这个人潮这么多啊，我就看准说，我一定要想办法跟 Price Club 做生意啊。那么所以说一路下来30几年，从 Price Club 从 Sam's Club， 他们30几年的成长，由加州到全美国到全世界，我就跟着他成长。
是，谢谢杨董事长。那在创业的时候，我们经常听到别人跟我们讲说，不要尝试啊，会失败呀、会赔钱啊之类的负面话题。那请问您当时创业的时候，是不是也有听过？那您是如何面对的？
我觉得目前开公司，据我知道，成功的百分比啊，大概1/4、3/4啦。那么你要从事自己做生意的话，你必须要非常了解你要踏入的这个行业。那么我比一个简单的例子讲，我说这个高尔夫球高手 Tiger Woods， 如果他去参加这个 tennis 比赛的话，不可能打赢人家。意思就是说，你要从事什么行业，你必须要非常的专精，而且要从最初基本去学习。古代人讲说学识啊刚啦，当学徒啦。你要做什么行业呢？你必须要找一家公司去学习。那么当然现在的科技这么发达，你要做什么行业呢？你可以从这个网络去摄取、去收集。当然基本上你必须要非常懂得这个行业，你才可以跳进去的。那我以个人来说，我因为出身这个教育程度，那么对电子高科技我不懂，那我只有选择这个一般的家庭传统这个行业传统的产品来开始做。
哦，OK， 好的。那 对于我们也知道，杨董事长后来也创立了银行业，但我相信银行业应该不是网络上可以学习到的。那我们就很好奇了，杨董事长已经是如此的事业稳定，生活富足，子孙满堂了。那请问又是什么样的契机让杨董事长进入了银行业？
其实是一个巧合，因为我对银行是不懂啦。因为参加我们商会的关系呀、我认识了很多的商会的朋友，那朋友的朋友，在一个偶然的机会了，那么有一群我们这个同乡呢，就集资要创立银行，因为当时是因为我们唯一的一个万通银行嘛，被国泰merge 了。他们就觉得说，哦，台湾人应该要有一个银行再继续，那所以说呢，他们就去默默的去筹备。那有一天他找到我了，他说，哎，那个杨某某啊，我们要开一家银行，那么要申请啊，需要一个 chairman， 因为你知道这个银行这个申请这个条件蛮严格的，不是说谁要做 chairman 就可以做 chairman， 甚至你要做 board director。都是要经过很严格的去审核。那么他不晓得怎么情况，他问我，他知道我可以，那所以说我就被用上这个名字了。那当然了，要做 chairman 呢，我股份也不能少了。那我现在目前在我这家银行有在 10% 以上。那我非常的幸运啊，我们的这个 CEO Crips 啊，还有我们的银行的同事啊，他们非常的努力啊。我就真的是非常幸运了。听说我们这个银行啊，过去这几年啊，每年都得到非常高的这个评语啦，甚至于在我们这一种5亿到10亿这个资本额的银行，我们都是数1数2的这种排名。
原来如此，所以杨董事长告诉我们，除了我们要经常在网络上面摄取资料之外，我们也要多交朋友。那我还有一个问题，就是杨董事长，您还投资了旅馆、房地产、经营餐饮业，请问在这么众多繁忙的行业里头，您又是如何分配时间？
其实现在的高科技这么发达哈，我认为这个时间呢，非常容易安排。那比如说我现在除了这个我的公司本行的行业之外，那么银行啦，甚至于我也开发这个洗车场，甚至于我们的这个呷哺还有一些投资一些房地产，我觉得都是靠你的手机，几乎都可以看数字了。我随时随地我都会知道我们洗车场现在洗几部车，多少钱。我的餐厅我随时随地都可以知道哪一家餐厅卖什么东西，卖多少个订单，多少个 order， 卖多少钱都知道。所以我经常跟朋友在聊天呢，我说，这个已经往生了这个台塑的董事长王永庆先生啊，当时如果说在他的时代有这么一个科技这么发达的话，他的成就绝对不是当时这个目前这个规模了。我认为呢，这个高科技的这个可以把你的时间省了很多，可以让你随时随地控制任何你投资经营的这个事情。我现在随时随地我的手机都可以看到我公司海外各地的同仁谁在电脑上谁在做事，我想要跟谁讲话，随时可以跟他讲话。
谢谢杨董事长。Ladies and gentlemen, please lower your volume a little bit. Please, maybe your neighbor is trying to understand our topics today. They might try to learn something. So please be respectful to the people near you. Thank you. 大家各位来宾，请大家稍微把您的声音降低一点点，因为您的邻居可能正在很努力的学习当中，他们也想要听到成功人士他们的背后的故事，所以请各位来宾将你们的声音放小一点，谢谢。接下来，我们想要请教杨董事长，我们都听过您的故事是白手起家，那已经俨然的成为我们在台湾人的一个精神的鼓舞，以及努力看齐的目标。而且您也在各种公益的活动上面积极的帮助弱势团体， 也一直在带领帮助着我们的年轻人往前进。请问接下来您对华人界还有什么样子的计划，或者是有什么样子的期许？
一路走来了，我从商已经50几年了，那在美国已经30几年了，那可以说是一步一脚印了，吃了不少的苦头了。那 I think you guys, young people, you're so lucky. When I was young, I do not have this kind of opportunity to learn from someone with experience like this kind of event. I think once I get to this step, I'm now over 70, and I feel that I own a lot of things to the community. Right now, last year I just donated $30-some million to foundation to do all the charity. And I also invited by a gentleman, I don't know if he's here today or not, Xiang Yi. He called me the other day and said, hey, Mr. Yang, today all the students from Taiwan want to get a college in the United States. It's very, very expensive. And therefore, less students come to the United States. However, people from China, every year they have over 200,000-300,000 students come to the United States. Taiwan, maybe a couple thousand, and because so expensive. Therefore, the Xiang called me and say, I have an idea. I want to raise some money to help the poor people or the low-income people come to the United States to go to college. And right away, I also get a phone call from John Wang. John, please stand up. And John's mother is here. And we come with agreement. Okay, they're going to put $1 million, and I'm going to put $1 million, and Xiang Yi going to put $1 million to start it, $3 million. And that is also including anybody here in this country. If you really need support to go to the good college, to the MBA, you can also approach us, this group. I think we want you to able to survive, to study. As I say, I'm over 70. All I want to do is try to offer back to our community. Right now, I can't eat any more than the young people. I can't drink too much. Or I can fly just first class, but I'm still making good money. I'm telling you, I hear people say, when are you going to retire? I say, why I want to retire? Right now, I got more capital, I got more experience, I got more friendship, more relationship. I can easily make money. And I can make easy money and donate to the society. That's what I'm doing now.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Now, please let us proceed to our next honor speaker, Frank Yang. For most friends here tonight, probably already know Frank Yang and Simple Human. But if you haven't, let me introduce him briefly. In year 2000, Frank founded Simple Human with a goal to revitalize trash can business. And with the vision of tools for efficient living, Mr. Frank has more than 200 patents, innovations, and other products such as sensor soap pumps, kitchen and bathroom organizations, and beauty tools such as sensor mirrors. Frank also was invited to many universities and large events to give speeches about his successful experiences. So Frank, how did you come up with the idea for Simple Human?
Hi, everyone. So first, I want to say I'm really happy to be here because it's rare to be able to be on the same stage with your father, right? To talk to you. So it's quite interesting. And I'm going to be as candid and as direct as I can in sharing my story to you. So hopefully you can get the most out of it. Okay, so your question is, how did I come to start Simple Human? So my immediate reaction was it was quite natural for me to just start Simple Human and design products to sell. But obviously that's not a good answer because there's not enough evidence. So I was kind of thinking about it myself to figure out what are some of the life experiences and the thoughts in my past that kind of evolve into this. And there are two things I could pinpoint. Okay, so one is back when I was 6 years old. So me as a chubby, mischievous little kid, but quite likable. Okay, so I was in my father's trading company. That's where I hang out after school. So I would be in the showroom looking at all the merchandise that at the time, in the late 70s, that's where he has all this merchandise to sell to all the Westerners right here. So that's my playground. So I'm exposed to products at a very young age. And then I still remember that people asked me, Frank, what do you want to do when you grow up? I said, I want to invent something and sell them. And so they laughed at me. What do you mean, invent? I mean, in the 70s, they said, you want to be a doctor, attorney, architect, no such thing as invent and sell. So they kind of put me away and just a little kid. But I actually gave them an idea of what I want to invent. I'll tell you guys what it is. And they have it today, but I said they should make a pet feeder for the dog that's on a clock. So, every 8 hours it would rotate and you feed your dog. Of course, they have it today, but I still remember my idea from when I was 6 years old. So that's one. I'm actually exposed to products and I just like to product design. So second thing is now you fast forward 14 years. Okay, I'm UCLA. I went to UCLA. Any Bruins here? All right, so there you go. So I tried to go for econ major, and I wasn't smart enough. So I decided to take some poli-sci classes, and I got really good at political science. And then I was doing really well, and then I met my wife, Sandy, who was a design major. So a year into it, she said, Frank, it looks like you're going to become an attorney. Let me tell you something. I don't like attorneys. So I said, oh, wait a minute. I guess you're kind of playing the future a little fast. So I thought, well, okay. So then she started talking to me about, what do you like to do anyways? I said, well, I told him the story about a 6-year-old, I want to invent stuff and sell it. And she said, that's industrial design. What are you doing being a poli-sci major? So I took a class in industrial design and just fell in love with it. So those two things, my childhood upbringing, my own passion for design, and my wife sort of rekindling that passion in college really just made Simple Human natural.
That's perfect. And Simple Human right now is actually a world famous company. Even actually, everybody can definitely check out your specific page on Wikipedia. And we also found out there's actually another name before Simple Human. It's called CanWorks. So how did you change the name from CanWorks to Simple Human? Why?
Okay, so I started then, the first product was trash cans. So I thought CanWorks, great name, direct, talks about the product, not too long. And then we found some initial success with the product. And then the retailers and customers started asking us to make more products. And I thought, okay, we'll make a dish rack, we'll make a soap pump. But what, is it Dishworks and soap pump works? And we started getting very worried that you can't name a dish rack CanWorks. So that's why we were, for the sake of making the name more usable, I guess, we had to change our name to Simple Human.
I see. Is that why you also have a slogan, Tools for Efficient Living? How did you come up with that?
Actually, the real story was, a lot of you here know the Palm Pilot, right? Not the smartphone. So I actually came out with the word Tools for Efficient Living before Simple Human. So because when I try to research for a name, I had to figure out what is the essence of the company, what is the core philosophy. And at the time, I had the Palm Pilot, and I thought every time I used it, I felt so efficient. I felt, I had my phone numbers, I can have my email addresses, and I just felt efficient was very good. So that was the core, Tools for Efficient Living first. And then I searched for a name that I thought would match that philosophy. So
That's
that's how it came about. Sounds too simple, I know, but
yeah, very simple, easy to remember too. That's very good. Thank you. And Simple Human for us is like Apple in houseware with modern design and technology applying on trash can, mirror, and soap pump. It's an eye-opening innovations. Simple Human also won a lot of rewards, like in 2013, the Houseware Design Awards. In 2016, you got Red Dot Award. In 2015, you won Good Design Awards. So nowadays, we're just using your products and feeling it's like a of course thing. But how did you come up with the design to change our living habits?
you know, design is like a black box to me. But more and more, I went into it, and now I understand it's a constant process of refinement. You know, when we did the first trash can, I was paranoid about the pedal size, the angle of the pedal, you know, the step can, the weight of the pedal. When you step on it, there's a slip. I mean, I was so anal about the details that nobody else really cared about, and drove designers crazy, drove engineers crazy. Isn't this good enough? It wasn't good enough. So I think it's that passion for constant refinement and focus, that, and also being honest that it really is better would you use it yourself. I think a lot of companies, a lot of people, they build a product and they think it's for the business and they actually don't use it themselves. And that's not what we're about. You know, that, I think that's why we are able to make our products better.
I see. And well, actually, houseware in kitchen and bath is a traditional business. Those are actually many business owners before you. So how did you defeat them?
Okay, so throughout the years, like 15 years, we have different types of competitors. Number one, I love competition. Okay, I love competition because A, it really makes us try harder and be better. But two, it's just me. My blood starts pumping faster. I just want to beat them. So it's me. I love competition. So there are two types. The first type is a competitor like myself who is into design, into innovation, and we just have to do a better job at designing. And you know, are they really caring about the pedal angle and the weight? Probably not that anal like me. So hopefully I beat them. And through our history, we have defeated, I don't want to use the word defeated, we have managed to win the consumer's heart more than the fellow innovators in our category. The second type actually is really is the copycats. Okay, that really gave me a lot of trouble, a lot of headache, and a lot of it's a lot of words I can't even want to use here because it's just very troubling. And so for years I tried to figure out how to beat them. And recently I realized that you can't go fight their game because they're copying you, they're going cheaper, they don't care about R&D, they don't care about quality at times. You know, I used to go to Canton Fair with my dad. Now I don't go anymore. I go to Canton Fair, I just go sick because, I mean, every other booth looks like our product and they even have our exact color box, logo treatment. It really is unbearable. So I decided that the way to beat that is to innovate, and here's the key. How are you able to tell your story better as a brand to the consumer so the consumers know that that's a fake, this is a real deal? And hopefully, if you tell your story well enough, you'll win enough hearts. I think people nowadays with social media, you know, the millennials, they're very smart. They can suss out what's the real product, real company, what they stand behind, rather than I'm just copying and saving a few pennies. So that's my strategy, but yet, you know, we'll see where that goes.
Perfect. Well, Simple Human was actually founded in year 2000, and just 16 years, right now, Simple Human is a world-famous corporation. Now, we're just wondering if you have any advices for small business owner today.
You know, like my dad was saying, starting business is so difficult. For me, it's been focus, and you probably hear this word a lot from me, is that we actually had troubles, you know, early on too. So I had initial success with the trash cans, and we got approached, you know, you guys are like Apple of housewares, you know, why can't you make an ironing board, you know, kitchen drawer organizer, and paper towel holder, and all sorts of things. And we kind of got a little bit ahead of ourselves. You know, we're so good at design. We could do all this. So we actually did a lot more stuff. And a lot of it didn't pay off. And luckily, we were smart enough and were smart enough to swallow our pride and just walk away and not become so confused and not focused. I would say staying focused on your core, what you believe in. And I think for me at least, and I don't want to make this a negative to the startups scene, but I think sometimes I do see this where you have a good idea and then you start pivoting because to get more funding. You pivot your idea for more funding, but deep inside you already know this product perhaps is not what the right product for consumer. I think that's a real danger there. Just start sticking to your core and staying focused and be honest that you really feel this is a great product and service that you're really, really proud to share, okay, with your friends and family. That's the key for me.
Thank you so much. Before we move to our next section, the cross and together on generation transfer, my last question for you here will be, we all know Jackson is actually a very traditional Taiwanese father, and you are actually a modern American son. Is there any pressure on the generation gap, or do you have any suggestion for people with similar background?
First I want to say I'm pretty lucky. I think my father, even though he's traditional, actually quite open-minded. Okay, so he was able to give me money and go do your own thing and not be too involved in the beginning, and I think that's key. He's actually quite an open-minded guy, so that's important. Okay, so but I think the second generation, from my experience, I think the fundamentals are the same. Meaning, to run a business, you have to eventually make it a successful business model. An idea is not enough. I think a lot of times the younger second generation, they get carried away with the hype of marketing, of a cool service, but then they haven't thought about the fundamentals or they don't understand it, and so then you start fighting because the previous generation, their horizon to make money is a lot shorter. I'm here, I need cash flow, right? I need cash flow to survive. So right away they're talking about that. Where the second generation, maybe you don't have that pressure, you're talking about valuation. But valuation to them doesn't mean anything. Where's the cash, right? So I think it's that understanding from each point of view that eventually you do need to generate cash flow anyways and able to play that long game. And if you can't sell your own father, you're probably not gonna make it. That's the way I see it. That's the easy one. Okay.
Yeah, indeed.
So.
Yes. Thank you so much, Frank. Well, actually, both of you are equally successful people, but you are using very different approach on business plan, strategy implementing, and risk management, and how you hire and use your talents. So now we are coming to the course and together generation transfer. Now I'm gonna use Mandarin. 你们都是非常成功的人士，又来自朝夕相处的一个家庭。我们都可以看到杨董事长的产品占据了大部分美国人的家庭，成为不可少的生活用品。而 Frank 则是屡屡创新得奖，一直突破，创下了新的销售成绩。所以我们想请问杨董事长，您的市场策略为何？
这个部分蛮重要的。我不知道在座有几个是副组长在这里，花正上 here today. In my experience, no matter how busy we are, every week, me and Frank, we get together to go to Starbucks coffee, spend hours to exchange our idea, our anything new. And to me, since my age, I need to learn more about what young people's feeling. Because all my products I develop is for young people, not for my age people. Therefore, I gotta know what young people's love. My products is more price issue. Although I have a little bit brand name, but not so powerful. But with simple human, young people different. He is created brand and the product is different. So both company market is different. My market share is Sam's Club, Costco, Walmart. Simple Human is worldwide and mostly high end. However, my product is quality and value. And almost everybody, every family need it.
Okay, the same question we're gonna ask Frank. So, how did Frank decide the marketing strategy for your cooperation?
You know, actually, I started a company not because I want to start a company. I think I started a company because I want to invent things and sell them. So to me, the company is a vehicle to achieve my dream. Okay, so naturally, when I'm so picky about the product, I make it. You know, I don't look at market segment and say, well, I need to, hit this retail segment. I need to be selling to this group of demographics. Rather, I'm thinking I'm making the best product I can, and hopefully a lot of people will appreciate it. If you guys know, I one time heard this thing from Apple, Steve Jobs. He said that he thought when he made the phone that only Americans like it and only younger people and maybe some older people. But then he traveled the world and realized that everybody globally liked it because it is a really great product. So I think that's a common denominator. And to me, the strategy is how to make the better product, and then naturally customers will find you, or make sure you're at places where people will find you. And that's it. It's that simple.
Thank you. Well, both companies are actually world-class cooperation, so I believe you have a lot of department divisions in your company. So my next question will be, 请问杨董事长对于公司内部的管理是采用什么样子的策略？
管理员工。
是因为您的公司一定有非常多的部门，有非常多的管理阶级。那请问您是采用什么样子的策略？
Well, it's very simple. If you can do a good job, help your company make a lot of profit, then you have to offer them more money. Therefore, every employee, you need to give him a lot of support. You got to give him, help him how to do a better job. 每一个员工一来公司，没有人说这个来就是混日子了。当然混日子的话，你几个月就知道了。那所以说呢，你必须要知道这个员工他不是混日子，他要做事，你就是要鼓励他，要帮他嘛，让他做好他要做的工作。
Thank you. Now, then the same question we're gonna ask Frank. Your company is so big and huge. How do you decide the company management strategy?
I don't know about big and huge, but it's okay. I think I'm still learning about that one. The management of the company is management of people, and the more you learn, the more you know how little you know. That's one of those things I come to realize. And I think people, human being, is the most powerful, most complex, most important thing in the world. And when you have a team, it gets more powerful and more complex. And so I early on started thinking I need a very clear management structure, who's responsible for what, making sure that they're clear and that you have certain milestones, if you will, which we do. And that's a constant battle. But then as we grow, we start to realize that culture is actually the most important. And culture is like America, is so powerful because the American culture is so strong, So what is culture is that definition we could talk for hours. And so we've been trying to figure out how to instill the culture and maintain it and evolve it over time so that, because I can have very good management structure, I can have very good rules, but then the world's always changing. So when something happens, I'm not always there to see everything and to react to it. But if you have the right culture, the people, your teammate, will automatically react correctly and evolve to the way to make sure the company is on the right track. So that's my strategy. And like I said, it's a constant learning process for me, but is by all means the most important one, I think, for the company.
So too. Thank you so much, Frank. The next question we are going to ask, I believe, will benefit most of our audience here today because we have a lot of young people here. 请问杨董事长 ，Seville Classic 和大通银行都是大企业，也有很多的年轻人想要挤进去您的公司。请问在场的，我相信我现在是在帮在场各位年轻人问出他们的心声。请问杨董事长会如何的挑选人才？
其实啊，每一个人都有他的专长，都有他的特长啊。你只要这个人来，你了解他能做什么，你就尽量让他去发挥啦。我刚刚也提过，我们公司我刚来美国的时候，我不认识任何人，那也没有员工。我第一个员工是一个外国人，他跟我同年。当时他被裁员，那我问他你一个月你多少钱？他说4000块。我说我没有办法付你那么高，我付你1500块，但是你一个礼拜来上班2天就好了。哎，他说好啊，结果他天天都来。我说你不用天天来，他说我在家里没事。这个人呢非常努力，非常认真。那我呢到今天已经将近30年了，我现在每年他从我这边赚上百万了，一两百万呢，从几千块、1500块一个月开始啊。我的意思就是说，你任何一个人来，都是人才。如果他适合做 sales， 你就给他让 sales 发挥；如果他适合这个管理，你给他从管理这边去发挥。那当然了，你要有足够的时间跟他一起做了，这是一个最困难的地方。比如说我很忙，能够在我身边做事的人，我能花时间跟他做不多。我现在最头痛的就是说，我要找到我中间的 supervisor 的人。那这个 supervisor 懂得配合他底下的人，所以这个找人是很困难，但是找到人来以后呢，要有人来 supervise 他，这个是很重要的工作。
谢谢杨董事长。Then I also have the same question for Frank. I know a lot of people would like to work for you. So what will be the qualification of a talent you will be looking for?
I don't know if there's a qualification, but we need a lot of help. So if you guys are interested, just drop us an email, because the more talent we have in our office, the best. But I think, I agree with my father in almost all of it. Everybody's got their different talents. But I have found throughout the years that when I interview, that there's one common denominator that almost never fails. It does still, but it's, sometimes you meet a new person, the skill set aside, the education aside, all that, of course, you look at, right? But when you talk to people as a person, you kind of can feel if this person is comfortable with themselves. Are they confident and they're comfortable in their own skin? Or are they kind of awkward, or are they just kind of like trying to do things, be something they're not? I think that tells you a lot, because that confident person is going to be able to understand, have a conversation with you, evolve with you, and learn and continue to improve. So that's what I look for. People who are really comfortable with themselves, that they're going to improve, basically. So it's that simple. Yeah.
Thank you, Frank. Now we all know everybody can put in the application to apply for Simple Humans job. Okay, now the next question will be a little bit personal. 接下来我想要请问的是有点私人的问题。一般的企业都是父亲传儿子，但是你们并不是按照传统的方式走。请问杨董事长，您的想法是什么
？That's a good question. When Frank graduated from UCLA, he did come to my company to work a few years. And one day, he came to me and said, Dad, I want to quit. I want to start my own business. I said, what? I need your help. But then he tried to explain to me why. But I totally agree. Today, it's proof that he's right. Because when he started his own business, me and my wife invest $600,000. And I'm telling you today, I get return over $60 million. If he stay with my company, I don't believe that both companies together can be today's revenue. Why? Frank told me, he said, hey, Dad, all your employees with you 20, 30 years, and I'm just a young kid. how they want to respect me, how they going to listen to me, how they going to work with me. And it's different generation gap. So today, my company, most employee average age 40 some years old. In Simple Human, I think only 30 years old. That's the difference.
谢谢杨董事长。And the same question I'm gonna ask for Frank. In Taiwanese tradition, son always inherits from father's company, but you are creating your own. So what's your belief?
Well, I hope my son doesn't feel that way, that that he's entitled to because he's a son. Actually, my belief is I think everybody. That's my belief. Okay, so I think it's not about the money, for me, that you can inherit a lot of money, but it doesn't mean you'll have the self-worth and the confidence of, in the case if you really made it yourself. I think it's a big difference. I think I read somewhere that, money doesn't buy you happiness unless you also earned it. So, because then you're not, as a person your self-worth. So I think that's the key. So I don't believe that you should inherit your father's inheritance. I think it'd be nice to have some help, right? Support. There are many ways to support, such as experience, such as just spending family time. So that's what I think.
Thank you so much, Frank. We should definitely applause for that, don't we? Thank you, everyone. Now we are open to question and answers. If anybody feel like asking a couple questions to Jackson or Frank, now please raise your hand. Thank you. 各位来宾，我们现在开放给大家来询问问题。那如果您有任何想要知道更多的讯息的话，你们现在可以举起你们的手来问这些问题哦，请把握机会。Question. 哦，那边有一位小姐。
Hi, I'm Yvette from Taiwan. It's very inspiring about your business and story here in the States since you are first generation from Zhanghua, which is very close to my hometown, Taichung. I want to ask both of the chairmen one question, is that how you see different to Western market and Asian market? That's my question. Like, how do you see it differently? And how would the marketing or go-to-market strategy different in Asia and the States?
Wait, I'm sorry. This question for both?
I can give you my perspective first. I think naturally, there are differences in products. Sometimes you need to change your product to fit the market, right? So, for example, we have trash cans, but then in Asia you don't want the big trash can, you want the smaller trash can, or we try to sell our product to China, and they tell me, hey, Frank, we have a lot of rich people in China. Your trash can is cheap. It's only $200. So I said, okay, because they also buy Bentleys and Mercedes, but then I looked around, realized that their homes are very different from U.S. So in America, our kitchen is the center of your home, right? That's where you invite your friends and talk, and naturally, to have a nice stainless steel trash can to show off is a good thing, right? So, but in China, guess what? Yes, they're wealthy. They sit around in the living room, and their kitchen is in the back where the maid is cooking semi-outdoors, so the trash can is not very important to them. So it doesn't work. So to me, you have to really understand the culture, not just think, well, they got the money, they're gonna buy it, and really think very deeply in very great details, so you don't run into trouble. So that's my key thing, is understanding the culture. And I always say that I am a product of good supply chain knowledge and roots from my father's company, and also design and understanding of American culture is in my blood. But I can never create really awesome products that fit maybe like China needs, for example. I think I'm getting better at it. Maybe one day, there are products that some products are universal, like beauty products, which we have recently made. So it's you have to see it by case by case basis.
Does Mr. Yang Jackson Yang have anything to add?
I'm going to encourage all young people and encourage your friend in Taiwan. I know today Taiwan new governor, they really pushing TPP, and they really want to find the new direction to growth. I think America is a huge market. If you can build up something in this country, that's a global market. So you really need to focus on the US market. When you succeed here, your brand name here, it's become international brand name. So this is what I think.
Let me add something to that. So what he's saying is your product is successful in America, probably it could be quite successful globally. And I think for the most part it's true because of globalization and all the international markets are looking to us, or some people hate it, like why is there McDonald's here, right? But I actually recently heard a story from the chairman of Disney Pictures, and I found it quite interesting. He said, well, we're trying to do tentpole movies, so mega movies. We rather spend 5 years to build a really awesome movie like Finding Dory, like these big movies. And it's because he said something really interesting. He said, well, because the U.S. market, I don't have the exact numbers, but U.S. market was only 30%, okay, of the global movie industry. And Asia is much faster growing. So he found out that when you have a blockbuster film, it is 30-70. But when your film is not very good, it's not 30-70. Even though the channel is 30-70, it becomes like only America, because movie theaters in China do not want to play anything but the best blockbuster. So that tells you that you better be the best at American market. If you are, most likely that product probably will translate pretty well. So that's my take on it.
Yes, I have a question for Jackson. I want to learn the secret from him is one thing. I'm here in Los Angeles. My two sons today come here join me from New York. They don't want to stay home. They don't want to work for me. My son works in the Wall Street. So he invests a motel. I find a motel for him under his own name, his own money. But I run for him. I manage for him. And he enjoy and stay in New York. My other son is the same thing. So what is your trick to get your son to work for you instead for you to work for your son? And then he invent a company for your investment from $600,000 to $60 million. Gosh, that's really a great, secret. I really like to learn from you.
This is a very tough question. Actually, it happened to myself too. My youngest daughter, Jennifer, I offered her $1 million a year. She refused. She preferred to work Terranea Hotel in South Bay. And I don't know how much she make over there. I don't believe she can make $1 million a year over there. Well, young people, they have their own interests. But I think we need more communication. Like I say, every week I have a couple times have a coffee with my son. And every week we have a family night. My total family is 20 people. And either Wednesday or Friday, as long as I'm in town, I call all my family members come to my house to have a dinner. I want all my grandchildren, my son, all eating together, social. I think the communication and social is very important.
other questions from the audience? Oh, there it goes.
Hello. I was wondering, have you ever had any employees or managers play politics in office? You know, like pushing people out. How do you prevent this from happening? Or I know it's hard, it's impossible to prevent, but how do you manage this situation? Is it clear?
Yeah, office politics. Have you had issues with that? How do you have management control to avoid office politics, pushing away good people in your organization? Have you encountered that?
Yeah, so when I interview people, one of the things I say right away is we don't like politics in the office, but I don't know how far that carries. But I think two things. One, I think if the management ownerships are very tight and are really hands-on, hopefully you know enough what's going on to avoid that. Secondly, the culture that I talked about. You know, you gotta instill the right culture. If your culture is one of backstabbing and forcing people out, then you got a problem. If your culture is all about we're here to create the best product possible, well, you know what? If you're forcing out somebody who's not doing that, maybe it's not such a bad thing, right? So I think it's to me it comes down to that.
杨总会长好，我是那个洛杉矶台美商会青商，很感谢过去几年你一直对我们的支持。这样，我觉得I feel you are so success is because you have a very young heart and you can see the opportunity ahead and then you always try. So can you tell us, especially for the younger generation, what do you think any opportunity for the next 5 to 10 years? And the same question I want to ask for Frank Yang. This is very, very important. You have very good inspection or research any opportunity. This is very important.
Yeah, you have a good track record, so let's hear your forecast.
Good question. I'm going to be very honest to tell you what I feel. 30-some years ago, when I immigrated to California, as I say, I started doing business with Price Club. That's a Costco today. Now, with 30 years, I grow and I make lots of money. But today, I tell you, the next 5-10 years, .com business, online .com business. This is a huge opportunity. Amazon.com, any.com, I already into this business, which means I opened thousands of retail stores myself. Costco, good customer. They only have 600 some club, and they can buy from you today. They will not buy from you tomorrow. Which today, I see the future. If you own the .com business, you open your thousands store worldwide. You control your own market. As long as it's important, you keep good review. In order to keep good review, your quality, your pricing gotta be good. Consumer buy and happy and give you good review. This is a very big potential. Anyone in doing business, I'm highly suggest you pay a lot of attention on the .com business.
So for me, I think it's how to utilize technology to create products or services that really improve people's lives, okay? So, I mean, I was talking to my son, and I was hooking up an old stereo, and he said, why do you have wires between the speaker and this box? To him, use your phone, Sonos starts playing, it's like, that's the standard. So I think because we have technology now, to be able to utilize that to just make things so much easier and simpler and more hassle-free. And I have an analogy. I said, actually, the rich and famous already have this luxury. So rich and famous a lot of times have a butler, right? When you want something, you tell the butler it's here, right? When you want something done, you tell the butler it's done. So actually with, Uber, think about it, with Yelp, OpenTable, you are getting the lifestyle of that rich and famous, right? Those things everybody wants to have. So how do you use technology to just make something that much better to improve people's lives? It's the opportunity. But I think the thing that people care the most is health. How to use the same thing and apply that to the health to make people more healthy, become more healthy, live longer? That would be, to me, a huge opportunity. So technology, make people's lives better. That's, to me, the direction.
各位来宾，因为时间的限制，我们只能够在一个问题哦。还有没有人想要问什么问题的？
Hi, my name is Charles. I'm also with the Taiwanese American Chamber of Commerce. And I know Jackson and Franks are also very involved in improving the Taiwanese American relationship with politics. So what do you have in mind that how do you get the youth generation more involved in the local community and also with having a good relationship with the legislators or congressmen? Yeah, Chinese is okay. 就是因为杨董事长对于很多地方的 community 对于政治人物都非常的关心这样子。那要如何鼓励我们年轻的 generation 去从事政治跟社区服务这样？
这个以我现在这个年纪啊，在美国这块土地住这么久啊，哈，这个政治本来我是没有兴趣啊。 但是我后来我感觉到这个政治啊非常重要，对于我们这个后代啊，这个因为政治啊是可以解决可以处理很多你想不到的事情啊，像台湾这个政党轮替的啊，美国这个真的是关系我们的人生非常重要，我们不得不关心呐。 那我真的是很鼓励啊，我们这个台湾人，我们的社团要关心。那有2件事要做。第一个，你如果有你自己本身或你的儿女对政治有兴趣的话，跳出来，从最基层的去做。那或者是说，对于我们在社区里面的台面上的政治人物。 不管是国会议员呐，或者是参议员呐，这个募款的这个事情啊，我们也要热心一点。那我在这里呼吁大家，就是说，尽量集中火力。像我们在座我们有我们 Chairman Mr. Ed Lois 在这里哈。I'm going to tell about the fundraiser issue in Chinese. 就是说，他们都非常忙啊。我听到几个很 close 的这个议员，他跟我讲，他们真的非常忙。那可是我们社区很多人大家很热心呐，他也要办一场，他也办一场，他也办一场。他说，当然都非常欢迎啦。可是呢，有时候他时间分配不过来，那他当然他是要钱，要选票。那 像另外一个有几个国会议员，我们不要讲谁，他就比较聪明，他就利用一个场面，一次就捐足够的钱，那一次时间就解决了。那他有很多时间可以去服务社区，去做更多的工作。那我的意思就是说，不但我们要热心来做支持他们，让他们知道我们台湾人是很关心政治。 而且很支持他，他会 为我们发声。那我们也思考到说，尽量看看能不能凑在一起，场面做大一点，省他的时间，也省我们自己的时间。因为什么呢？有几个朋友他说：“哎，我才答应过帮水募款，那你现在找我了，哦，我不跟你一起的话，我就得罪你了。那我答应你了，我不支持他，我得罪他。我想一想，也真的是很能了解了。所以这一点呢，我对我们在座如果有兴趣参与政治的人，跳出来，我觉得这非常重要。尤其是我们现在台湾新的政府，他很重视美国。那所以说我们在美国的时候尽可能来参与的。那我呢，实在说我不太喜欢再出面我很愿意就是说帮忙，你们谁要募款都会找我，我不用出面都没有关系，因为你们年轻人，你们要更社团要更能够突出来，出面没关系。It is answer your question? Okay.
So let us conclude this session. Everybody, please join me to have another round of applause to the father and son team, Mr. Jackson and Frank Yang. We truly appreciate your sharing.
Okay, I'm going to make a very short conclusion. 我是会很不保留的，把我的经验分享给大家了。今天因为我马上赶飞机了那随时你们都可以跟我的秘书联络，需要来问我一些问题，我都会答复你。那我儿子呢，他经常被邀请到 UCLA、USC 他们那个研究班去做演讲。那学者很重要，实务经验更重要。你们不要客气，当然他很忙我们在座的年轻人可以找机会，你们凑在一起跟他联络我希望我们这个台湾的社团你知道我们犹太人在美国300多年了，他多成功不管是国防、政治、经济各方面都是可以画最金档。我们台湾人为什么不朝这个目标来做呢？大家拼命，大家要用心，那把我们这个在美国这块土地，因为美国是个移民国家，不是说我们就不是美国人了，你要拼台湾那条歌要拼才赢好不好？最后预祝大家这个周末愉快。
Before we break, I want to take this opportunity to thank all our sponsors for today's conference and being such incredible supporters financially and then in terms of assistance. Our diamond sponsors for today are First General Bank, Royal Business Bank, Simple Human, Taiwan Career USA Organization, In LA City Hotels, Seville Classics, National Jiao Tong University, the elite program. Our platinum sponsors are the Ministry of Economic Affairs of the Republic of China, Pastel Furniture, Hotel Indigo, EVA Air, Malin Furniture, Chen & Fen Accountancy Corporation, Novotech Nutraceuticals, JH Biotech. Our co-sponsors are Cal Lighting Accessories, Liu Li Gong Fang, and our Ministry of Science and Technology of the Republic of China, and Pulin Sipin Princeton Food Products. And as well, we mentioned earlier, we were able to mobilize many of our junior chamber young professionals to assist and organize this event. Without them, this event couldn't have really come to this fruition, and it's and with such big attendance. At this time, we would like to have a break. The next session will start at 2:20 in room A. So everybody will proceed to room A. It's not a breakout, so everybody can go to that room. So let's go ahead and recess until then. Thank you very much.